All right, folks, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Open House Boot Camp in our Momentum series. So the Momentum series has a couple different aspects to it. This is actually one of the lead generation components to the course. I always talk to folks, looking at how you prospect and what you do to prospect. Open houses are kind of a fix-all in a sense. It's a great way. They're weekly, right? They happen on a frequent basis, and it's a great way to get yourself in front of live buyers and sellers immediately, right? Because a lot of our prospecting timelines take a little bit of time. Sometimes it's a relational, sometimes it's marketing where you're marketing over time to get the phone to ring. An open house is one where you're actually in the trenches this second with live buyers and sellers potentially coming through. So it is a great opportunity. It's one, but it's very hit or miss too, right? Because whoever's coming through the door, you don't know what, how, or why they're there. So this process helps you, what we call is label the looker, as it lets you understand what they're there for, and if they're not there for that house, how do you help them and develop a relationship? Maryland Real Estate Commission came out there's a sheet right there. Yep. Maryland Real Estate Commission came out about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, kind of came down on open houses. They felt that a lot of agents were using open houses almost as like bait for other properties, kind of a bait and switch. So actually the way this class runs is this is very, hey, right there. Yep. This is what I call Maryland Real Estate Commission friendly way of doing open houses. Because what the Real Estate Commission had an issue with was folks flipping people from product to product, right? Basically, you come in with a family of 8 comes into a 1-bedroom condo. It's clearly not going to work for these folks. Maryland Real Estate Commission said you absolutely cannot talk to them about the townhome or the single family that's 3 blocks away. This doesn't do that either. This really only talks about if this isn't the right product for them, it's helping them with their process. So I'll show you where that nuance comes in. So this is completely MREC, safe. So you're not going to get in trouble using this open house methodology. Okay, well, let's hop in here. A couple things. Let's go over to page 4. So page 4 is basically the financial consequences. For those guys who've done momentum courses before, they lead off with a lot of this. And again, the better you get at open houses, the more proficient you're going to be and the better your close rates are going to be. If you incorporate open houses into your game plan, basically, I'm committing to do an open house pretty much every week. These are ways that you can do that in kind of the numbers you can expect. This is one where you do a Saturday and Sunday open house. Most agents aren't doing them that aggressively. But again, it gives you some options and some thoughts in here. Flipping along, page 5. In any of the momentum courses we have, there's a know, do, have plan. So it's basically whatever you want to do, you either need to know certain things and you need to have certain things to be able to do those certain things. So in this, the things you need to know, there's a welcoming dialogue, which transitions into a labeling dialogue, which then is your follow-up dialogue. The justification dialogue is kind of once you get into those, when you get stumped by a visitor, how you overcome that. And then things you need to have. Basically a call list, so that's for your follow-up. That's when the people come through. Directional signs, right? A time sign. A time sign is open Sunday, 1 to 3, open Sunday 2 to 4, whatever it is. A guest registry, and that can be either in paper format or digital. Home criteria sheet, and that's included in this. They recommend using a clipboard. MLS printouts, tax information, pricing tools. Basically how you came up with your pricing so you can talk to folks about it. And then thank you note cards. I also recommend a lot of lenders, like Jeff does these open house sheets for you that have some of the financial information. Because what I find is a lot of buyers are coming not necessarily looking 100% at just the homes, but also looking at the financial process as well. Because most people aren't coming in with a suitcase full of cash, so they're going to need to finance this. And what we find is a lot of buyers don't understand the finance process. All right. Oops. Again, page 6. So these are our beliefs. A couple things in here. One is the in the core entrepreneurial beliefs. Number 2, I love this one. Live in a world of abundance. Again, it's one of those things that there's a lot of opportunities out there, right? Don't get fixated on the things that don't work, right? Keep looking for the things that will work. My only limit is time. With open houses, because there is a time on it, it is one that will take, 3 hours of your day, 2 hours of your day, 4 hours of your day. So you've got to keep that in mind. And then success stems from duplicable processes and systems. This is what I'm trying to help folks move into, and I'm personally trying to do this as well. The more you have a process, the more you understand how you do your business, it's a lot easier to duplicate when you do something right. I mean, have you ever done a transaction and you knocked it out of the ballpark, and then the next time you go at it and you just miss something and just doesn't feel the way it felt the way before? A lot of times what that is you've missed a step, right? You've done things perfectly one way. The next time you're kind of winging it, and you're doing it a little bit differently the next time, and then a little bit differently the next time. And sometimes our results follow that pattern, right? Our results are different too. So having duplicable processes really, I think, increases your success rate. Moving along, real estate sales belief. People will trust and follow what I can logically and tangibly explain. And then moving down, buyer beliefs. So working with buyers, you guys work with buyers in here? Right? So what's the one big thing about buyers? That they take a lot of your... Yes, right? So without a good process in place, without understanding who's a real buyer and who's not, they can suck a lot of your time out of your business before you realize that, oh my gosh, these people were not serious buyers. There was kind of a funny discussion going on Facebook, the old line, buyers are liars, sellers are worse. But I really believe, I kind of cringe when I hear that statement, just because I think us as professionals, typically what happens is we probably didn't do a very good job qualifying them, asking the right questions, and rechecking in with them. I used to hate Brussels sprouts. I love Brussels sprouts now. You could call me a liar if you met me back in 5th grade, right? Because I hated Brussels sprouts. I tell you, I'd never eat them again. But now I eat them. So I changed my mind, right? There's a process that happened that helped me change my mind. Same with buyers. Sometimes in the process, they will change their minds. Good agents who understand really what's at the core, though, of why they're buying this property, why they're out looking, do much better than buyers agents who wind up just kind of being an overpaid taxi cab driver and hitting and missing with buyers. So time reveals all is definitely one that, if you leave it up to chance, if you're just winging it, time will let you know if these people are serious or not, right? They'll either write a contract soon or they might never write a contract, and you'll finally figure it out. But why not shorten that time frame when you know? Motivated, qualified, and loyal people buy homes. And again, having a process reduces that risk that comes with buyers. Alrighty. All right, so holding an effective open house. This is page 7. So here's, the key to the success a lot of times is having the right product, right? Because having a open house that no one ever wants to walk into, right? No matter how much you've prepped for the open house, no matter how good you are inside that house, if you don't have people coming to the house, a little bit of it is a waste of your time. So if you're holding your own open house or you're holding an open house for someone else, be selective, especially if you're holding it for someone else. Make sure it's the right property, or it's a property that you feel confident that you can sell. Usually priced according to your goals. right? So if you've got some goals in mind with where you want to be price point wise, right, make sure that that property lines up with that. Ideally, high traffic areas, and a home that shows well inside and out. Okay, prep. So they have advertised the home 3 days before with a time sign only. So that can be either, you know, a rider on the outside of the post sign, right? Open Sunday. And if you've got home for sale signs out, you know, they make little riders that go on top of them that you can put open Sunday, you know, 1 to 3, 1 to 4, whatever. Inform 50 neighbors of the open house. We'll delve into that. They have preparation, have a clipboard. 4, print out open house registry. 5, print tax records and MLS sheets for the open house or brochures that you've got. 6, print summary support pages for all active homes in the area. 6 is one that technically you're not supposed to promote other listings in the area. So that you want to know what products out there, but I wouldn't, based on MREC, I wouldn't pass that information out. And then 7, prepare a set of basic pricing tools. And that's basically some justification how you got to your pricing. And a lot of that is if you've done a good job justifying how you got to your pricing and a buyer questions you on it, and you can show them how you got to it, it really shows that you're not just winging it either. So in preparation, a couple other things I've added in here. I'm big on Facebook prep for my open houses, and also marketing to my sphere of influence. The way I look at it and talking to a lot of agents, having product is golden for your business, right? It gives you something to promote behind. You know, and out in the outside world, when people look at the real estate industry, what they see is product first and foremost. They see homes, right? They see us selling homes. They see us listing homes. But really, I mean, I'd say probably 90% of our work that we do is in the process, right? It's the lead generation. It's the lead conversion. It's the client care that happens once you get that listing, right? It's all those extra things you do. Really, our time with the product itself, maybe an open house, is really like 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, maybe tops in a whole transaction cycle. We're not like sitting inside the house selling it, right? We're usually doing a lot of other things to sell the property. So for that, if you've got product that you can promote out there to the public, because that's what they see, it's golden. So you want to take advantage of that. One thing I'm big on is making sure your sphere of influence knows that you have listed something, right? And especially one thing I do is I send out an open house invite to my sphere of influence. So I'll do a postcard ahead of the open house inviting my sphere of influence. It could be an open house in, you know, Frederick, and most of my clientele is in Olney. I don't care. I want to make sure that they understand that I'm doing business. There are some instances, you know, if you're listing a property out in, you know, Dundalk, maybe that's a little bit of a stretch, but again, your clientele may have friends, family who are out there, that I'm not too shy about pushing out to my sphere where I'm going. Other things, Facebook. So I'll show you guys a couple things. So in Facebook, there's 2 types of open house ads I like to do. One I will do is a event. So on your business page, always create an event for your open house. So on your business page, again, there's just this section up here, and you just click on create an event. So for this one, I've got a event page set up. The reason I like the events for Facebook is there's some geolocating for it. So once you create an event in Facebook, other people looking on Facebook, let's say there's this weekend in Frederick, there was a, the local fire department's doing a carnival. People say, hey, I want to go to that. It'll pop up and suggest other events that are local to that that fire, pavilion carnival. The events aren't super great. I wouldn't rely on them solely, but it can't hurt to throw an event up there. The other thing I'll do is an ad. So then I'll do an ad for the open house too. So I'll create an ad. And so the formula I like is 4 photos, right? Mostly all interior. So this is one right here. The big shot is the first photo in the lineup is going to be an interior for me. And then, oops. And then 3 others. I usually include the exterior just so, but I usually include it at the very end of the photo album. Other things I do is I don't put too much information in here, right? I don't want people disqualifying this property based on, I see too many people overselling on Facebook and in the ad trying to put so much information. 3 bedroom, 3.5 bath, 1,200 square feet, newer roof, deck, patio, 1-car garage, finished basement with a walk-up, just way too much superfluous information. People aren't really looking for that information, but what I found is you might actually disqualify some people. They may say, it's only 3 bedrooms. Forget about it. And they don't even click through. What you want them to do is click through. So give them enough, entice them to click through to this ad. So, like for this one, brand new listing in Clover Hill area. Renovated bathrooms and updated kitchen. Open Sunday 12 to 2, and then I've got a link to my True Place virtual tour. So if they want to get more information, I want them clicking through, right? And if they are interested, I'm taking them to a nice virtual tour, good photography, all my contact information, more information about the property. So if they are interested, hopefully what they're going to do is contact me, right? Instead of what some people wind up doing is putting so much information out there that they wind up, pushing the people away and never letting them click through. In this one, I wound up sponsoring the ad. So I had a reach of 1,800 people, 574 clicks on the post, 323 photo views, and 80 people clicked through the virtual tour link, right? So this ad was $13, to get that kind of result. Again, granted, so my client was pushing this out a lot. We had a good organic reach, more than half of this. So this light orange was organic, dark orange was paid. But it was just one of those things that, pushing it out there, and I got to show my client, because my client was, we didn't have a overwhelming open house. We didn't have an offer on Tuesday. So a little bit, she was like, well, what do we do now? And I'm like, look, we pushed this thing out here. This has been well exposed. And it was hard for her to dispute that, it wasn't out there. So this definitely gave us some talking points. All right, are you guys using Facebook to promote open houses? Okay. And if you need any help, kind of the little nitty-gritty stuff, I can always help you guys out too. All right, so talked a little bit about the prep. Obviously the Facebooks, and I'm big on postcards to my sphere of influence. So moving down, action. Put out plenty of open house signs on the way to the open house. Make it easy to find. I asked Joe Shaver, he's the king of open houses. If you guys ever want to really know how to do an open house, just, buy Joe a Starbucks and sit with him. He does a really good job with them. His theory is 20 plus signs he'll put out for an open house. If you're close to a shopping center, right? Put them by the exit of the shopping center. Find high traffic areas and try to direct people from those high traffic areas to your open house. So 20 plus signs. His other thing is, his goal is to make sure, and a lot of us, you guys have all done open houses before, right? Percentage of people who come in off the signs versus internet. Do you have anyone who comes off signs?
I did the other, yeah.
Okay.
It was all signs.
Okay.
They all came from signs.
All came from signs?
6 or 7 groups were all signs.
How many signs did you put up?
I did. I put up, I want to say at least 10 signs.
Okay.
Not 20.
Okay.
But I did put up a lot.
Okay. Lewis?
As far as signs, I mean, we have a listing in Germantown, so we're right off the highway.
Yeah.
So we have our sign pretty much posted right off the highway coming all the way towards the house, and I feel like it dragged a lot of attention to it versus the internet.
Okay.
I did one with Jenny. She had 14 signs up. We had 15 groups come through. A lot of that was from the signs. There were some neighbors and stuff, but there were a lot from the signs.
Okay. Kelly?
I'd say for us it's half and half so far.
Okay. And that's good. And I'd say your goal is to have at least a 50-50 signs versus internet. Sometimes you'll see if you ever done a bad open house, right? You'll see that 90 to 100% of the people will come online, right? It's out there online, thankfully, right? So people are seeing it online. But if you haven't done a good job pre-promoting it, most all those people will be coming off of the Zillow, Redfin, Trulio, Realtor.com ads and not off your signs. And I caution people that if you're getting people who are coming online only, your conversation is a lot more quiet, right? They've already seen the inside. They already know the price. They already know a lot of the information, what the school district is, what the monthly payment is. They know a lot about the property already. So when we get into this kind of dialogue with them, they already got a lot of this stuff. So you're really just there to make sure no one steals the furniture. So I'm really big on making sure 50-50 ratio should be your goal of signs to internet. All right. Other things with signs, I think the signs, it's in your best interest because you'll see sometimes is like when can you go out on a weekend and like have a billboard out on major roads with your name and phone number on it, without spending thousands of dollars. There's companies that spend tons of money to try to get the exposure that you guys can get individually. Arrive 20 minutes before scheduled time to prep home. Turn on all the lights, including closets. Open all the drapes and blinds to make it light and bright. Adjust the thermostat. Flush all the toilets. This is a good one, especially if you do my house. Burn a nice smelling candle. I'm not a big fan on the candles. I think sometimes that actually can make it look like there's a problem. But we'll bake cookies nowadays. Like we go and we just get those, they've got the pre-cut and, just a disposable tray. Bake some cookies. Turn on soft music. And at the end of it, you're going to write thank you letters. Okay. So next page, 8, is the increasing the traffic. And this is a big one, and this is where you're wearing your listing agent hat, not your buyer's agent open house hat. So when you go out and put your signs up, or when you're putting your pre-marketing signs 3 days ahead of time, it's a great opportunity to go meet some of the neighbors. The way I look at this is, I'm not a big fan of door knocking, and I know a lot of folks aren't. It's just kind of like, I don't want to bother people I don't know. People don't want to be bothered by me. But I look at this as you're a trusted resource. You've got a key to their neighbor's house, right? You are a known entity. You're not just dropped in this neighborhood. You could be selling magazines or something no one knows. But you're there to invite them to an open house. An open house they probably are going to come to anyways. And most agents do not drop by the neighbors. Most agents will not do this. So you differentiate yourself from the rest of the population. And again, the way I look at it, within a 20-mile radius of your listing, someone will be going on the market. One of those 20 neighbors will be going on the market in the next 6 months. It's just almost, those are the numbers, kind of the statistics. That's always going to happen. So keep that in mind, that get out there and visit these folks. There's a couple ways of doing this. You can just invite them straight up to the open house, or what some people have done is like a mega open house, where they wind up actually creating a 12-to-1. Let's say your open house is 1-to-4. They'll do a 12-to-1 velvet rope, neighbors only open house. And that's a way to make it this is a special event for the neighbor and for the neighborhood to get to know that property. There's really good reasons why you should do that. One, it takes some prior planning, right? You can't just like Sunday morning, 10 a.m. say, oh, I'm going to do it. It won't be as successful. So you've got to get about a week ahead of this. So the reason why I think it's really effective is if you can get sellers in the property at one time and then buyers in the property at another, it definitely helps you. Because those of you who've done open houses, you guys ever done an open house and a neighbor comes in?
We start talking about smack.
Hour later.
Some of it is, yeah, they will, some of them talk smack. Some of them are actually going to list soon, and you want to have a conversation with them. And what I found is I'm sitting there, I'm super engaged, having a great conversation, ready to close for an appointment, buyer walks in, right? So I'm at a dilemma. What do? Do I finish this conversation with this seller, the potential seller who I could maybe get an appointment with, or do I talk to this buyer? If I don't talk to the buyer, seller's thinking, what the hell? You got someone in your house? Why aren't you talking to them? If I, ignore the seller, potentially I lose that opportunity. So as much as possible, if I can get sellers in the room at one time and buyers in the room at another, you've definitely increased your odds of potentially closing an appointment. So this is basically 50 neighbors ahead of time. So the sample dialogue. Hi, my name is Joe Buffington with RE/MAX Realty Center. I'm simply stopping by to let you know I'm holding the house open for the Smiths at 123 Easy Street on Sunday from 3 to 6 o'clock. And this is a momentum phrase. As an extra service to the Smiths, I'm informing their closest neighbors in case you may know of someone who is interested in moving into the area. If you do, I'd love to see them at the open house on Sunday. Here's my card. If you or anyone you know has any real estate related needs, please don't hesitate to call. It was a pleasure meeting you. Have a great evening.
Did you go on Saturday or to do this for the neighbors or?
Yeah, either, depending on, how much lead time you have. Usually Saturday is when you might be able to catch the most amount of people, or some evening during the week, depending on how much light you have.
Yep.
Joe?
Yep.
Teresa and I went door knock before our last open house and used the reason that there's reserved parking, and if anybody parks in your reserved space, let us know, here's our card. And people like that.
Yeah.
Because it gave them a reason besides inviting them to the open house.
Yeah,
And that way they had our card, made sure they had our card.
that is really cool. Can I write that down?
Sure. That was Teresa's idea. Then you don't feel like you're like,
Exactly.
Put pressure in
You
them.
have something to
Hi.
say,
Yeah.
right? You're helping them
yeah,
help you.
yeah.
And I had an agent who, one of her things was if she put a yard sign, if she put a directional in your yard, she would actually give you a $5 Starbucks card, kind of as a thank you, and an icebreaker. Because sometimes what happens, you put a sign in someone's yard and they're like, that shit. Like, get that out of my yard. So it's just a way to be friendly, be neighborly, and ask someone's permission. I think they appreciate that. And the way we look at this is you just open the door to 50 more relationships that you wouldn't have had otherwise, putting your business in a much better place at the end of the day than it was in the beginning. And again, because you've got a product to stand behind, it's definitely a lot easier to do this than it is to go. Any of you all ever door knocked? It's a lot easier to do this than to just jump into a neighborhood and door knock a neighborhood with no product that you're pushing. This is a real easy product push. And if 50 is too much, I say start with 10, do 20. Do the ones at least in eyesight of the listing. So at least you can just say, my listing over here, my listing, so if you're not as comfortable, and then build yourself up to 50. But again, this is a great opportunity that very few agents ever really take advantage of. Okay. So let me show you something real quick. This is and I use this slide a lot in our presentations. Oops. So one thing to keep in mind, this is the NAR home buyer, home seller profile. So where buyers found the home they purchased. So 43% of all buyers found the home they purchased online, 33% with the real estate agent, and then the next highest was yard sign or open house. So there is some effectiveness to an open house. We used to say, only 2% of open houses, or 2% of homes are sold at an open house. This statistic says it's 9%. So there is some success rate to sell that listing right there. The other thing, and this is one that you want to use, I use this all the time, this statistic, is what's the most difficult steps in the home buying process? This is the survey of home buyers and home sellers through NAR. And this is the one that just, like, if you think about it, it's mind-boggling, but it's one to at least talk to people about. I always have this in my back pocket, especially at open houses. It's that, most difficult steps of buying the home. Before I ever read this report, I assumed it was going to be financing, paperwork. Those are the two big ones. And actually, the biggest one by far and away is finding the right home, right? And you're like, hold on. How many websites are there that can help you search for properties, right? As many agents as there are, there's at least one website. And then every company has a website. There's tons of, there's billions of sites for real estate property search. Yet it's still the most difficult process. So with that said, that's always a good thing to have in your back pocket to help kind of buyers understand that, this is a hard part. Because a lot of buyers go out there, they go to open houses, they're using Zillow, they're using Trulia, they're using the tools that they have, thinking that they've got it, right? They've got all the search. When actually what they might feeling is some struggle out there in the marketplace. And a stat like this just lets them know that, you know what, you're in good company, right? Because most buyers found this the hardest part of the search. Or part of the process. That's why you might need some help, right? I know you can DIY a lot of this stuff, but if this is the problem you're running into, then maybe I can help. All right, so welcoming dialogue. This is on page 9. So as lookers enter the home, basically this is pretty simple. I'm sure you guys know how to greet people. Hi, it's Joe Buffington, RE/MAX Realty Center. Come in and make yourself at home, right? The seller would like a record of everyone who has been through the house today. So could you please sign my guest registry? Hand attendee the register on a clipboard. I'd also appreciate any comments you have regarding the home on your way out. So this process is one where you actually have a registry at the front door with you, giving it to the buyer, have them signing it like right off the bat. Do you guys do that? How do you guys do it?
I generally try to get them engaged a little bit and then have them sign before they leave.
Okay.
So we use a book. We have a.
But we initiate it.
Yeah, we always initiate at the beginning that before you leave, and
Yep.
I have a sign that says, that the seller requests your registration. So it's like the seller's asking for this
Yep.
more than me.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else? How do you guys, what's your processes?
Same thing, so it's record.
Okay. Anyone using Open House Pro? Okay. Do you like it?
Yeah, it's convenient. Too many questions at times, but.
Yeah, and you can edit those questions
Oh,
too.
can you?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I use Open House Pro. It's an app for an iPad. The one issue I don't like about it is that if someone fills in their information, sometimes they're still in the house. I can look at their information and kind of gather some talking points with them right off the bat. When it goes into the app, you don't have that information right off the bat. You got to kind of close the app down, go in and look at the contact. So it's kind of dependent on what your comfort level is. The way I do it is I greet them at the front door, tell them, there's a brochure in the kitchen and and an iPad to sign in. Can you please sign in when you get to the kitchen? So I want them signing in early, because sometimes what will happen is you lose track of them and they wind up out the door or whatnot. Do you guys have a problem getting people to register? Okay. All right. So take your time, look around. And again, what they say is don't play tour guide. That's my style. I don't like playing the tour guide unless I feel that there's something I want to point out to them. But I try to want to have them kind of gather some questions together so that I can engage them on their way out. So you're speaking with someone and new lookers entering the home, interrupt So if someone new comes in, obviously you welcome them as well. So once the looker tours the home, your goal is to, number one, answer any and all of their questions, right? Reveal information. Number two, identify exactly where they are in the home buying process. This is the label the looker methodology. And then three is close and follow up accordingly, basically taking action. The bottom line is you must engage. You must be friendly at the open house, y'all. Can you do it? Yes?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so providing relevant information. So part of your role is to provide the looker with information, right? You're obviously, what you're trying to do is qualify this home for them. Is this the right home for them? So you've got to ask some questions and follow up, right? So when answering looker questions, always follow your question, always follow your answer with a question, right? This keeps in control. This keeps you in control and the looker engaged, right? So once they've toured the home, so what do you think about the home? Paula, what do you think about the home?
Oh, yeah. I like it. It's a nice house.
Okay. So is it nice enough for you?
You know, I'm not quite sure yet. We're kind of early in this whole thing.
Okay. So what kind of time frame are you looking at?
We might be in the market maybe in the next 2 to 3 months,
Okay. So why 2 to 3 months?
just so that we have time to get ourselves ready to purchase. We haven't worked with a lender or anything yet, so
Okay.
still kind of just looking.
All right. So in this case, actually, we kind of shifted away from the house and in process a little bit. But if she wasn't, it was a nice home, and I was trying to gather from her what is it about the home she likes or doesn't like, to figure out if this is the right home for her. And I shifted gears a little too quick on you. Like in this one, it's like, it's a nice house. How much are they asking? If they don't ask that, have a follow-up question, right? You know, and like this example, it's, you know, the house listed for $150. Does that meet your price range, right? Yes, it does. What's the school district? It's an X school district. Is that the right school district for you, right? Yes, it is. What are the property taxes? They're this. Does that fit in your budget, right? So you're just, whatever answer you're giving, you're trying to follow up with a question. Or if they don't ask another question, ask a question behind the answer that they gave you. Try to get them engaged to find out if this is the right house for them. So you keep providing information and kind of playing this dance with them until you get a no. So upon hearing no, you must immediately switch roles from information giver to the labeler, by asking the looker, and here's the critical question, are you currently in the market for a new home? Right? Other questions I typically ask people is, have you looked at other homes today? I try to get them to tell me about what they've looked at. How did our home compare, right? Because sometimes what's happened is they know the price, they know the school district, they know they're just coming to sniff the house out, and they're not giving you a whole lot of information. So you got to work really hard on engaging those internet buyers these days, because they do have information. Okay, page 11. So page 11 we're going to hold off on, but actually page 11, I'd tell you, if you're going to do an open house, have this literally, like what I'll do is I'll have this with me, and I'll just review this while the house is vacant. Or if someone's looking, I'll kind of go through this just to kind of give myself, it's a really nice flow chart of how your conversation can and should go. So we'll break down, this is kind of this is the forest, and I'll tell you guys about the trees. All right, so looker is ready to buy. So once relevant information has been provided, you must label the looker asking, are you currently looking for a new home? And if they say yes, how are you going about finding your perfect home? Right? So what we're doing now is product A that we're standing in doesn't fit for them. We've qualified that it's just not the right property for them. So now we're shifting gears, and instead of switching into, oh, I know a property that'll be perfect for you, it is, how are you going about finding your perfect home, right? It's not product, it's process. And that's where this is Maryland Real Estate Commission compliant. So, how are you going about finding your perfect home? If the answer implies they are not being intentional, which pretty much 99% of the time, they're not being intentional about their process. How would you like to use a proactive process that will ensure you get the home you want, and more importantly, want the home you get? Looker says, well, what does that mean? What does that entail? It would begin with us getting together for about an hour or so I can uncover exactly what you need in your next home, define your financial comfort zone, and thoroughly discuss the roles and expectations we have for one another in a successful working relationship. Does that sound like an approach that would benefit you? So yes, then you close for the appointment. If no, so share with me why you feel that way. So the dialogue demonstrates an eagerness to help, which is highly attractive and missing in most buyer's agents. If they immediately see a benefit in working with you, then book an appointment for your first meeting. Obviously follow up in writing with a note card, and then call prior to the appointment. If you get some pushback, this is where page 13, this is the justification dialogue. And again, this is that time is limited, so you must invest in vital activities only. Consistently emailing information to behaviorally unwilling buyers is a high-risk venture and a hot stove issue. Remember, serious buyers behave like serious buyers. So, for instance, they say, well, can't you just email me the information? We don't need to meet. So do you see a benefit in us getting together? And it says, well, no, not really. Other agents don't ask me to do this. Exactly. Understand that I'm a real estate consultant, and I'm extremely serious about what I do. I don't do this part-time. I run a business, and I'm not just running the business of showing homes. I'm in the business of satisfying needs, or I'm in the business of selling homes. I have a process that I use with all my clients. Therefore, before I start emailing you information, we need to find your perfect home and make sure that the homes we consider fall within your financial comfort zone. We need to thoroughly discuss our roles and expectations in a successful working relationship. And this is like this next paragraph is kind of one you can use right off the bat. I believe the best approach when investing a large sum of money is to operate in an intentional and proactive team. Wouldn't you agree? So basically, you're kind of calling them out on this, because sometimes people are literally shopping for a home the way they would shop for shoes online. And it's just kind of, look, this is a huge investment. You need to know who you're working with, and have an intentional and proactive approach to this. Doesn't that sound reasonable? You know, and we always have this, wouldn't you agree, or doesn't that sound reasonable? What would it hurt to just spend 30 minutes learning about what a proactive and intentional process means? When you are investing, you know, $250,000, $500,000, $1 million in a home. So if they say yes, close for appointment. If they say no, they say next. Don't step over dollars to pick up dimes. Some people, they're not closable. There's a reason why they're hanging out at open houses sometimes. And you know, you got to realize you're not going to invest and waste your time and effort on certain people. As long as you've gone through a process and qualified them, you have the right to say no. Okay. This is more of a direct approach. This is, again, getting into that advanced dialogue. Other ways to justify a first meeting is to say, you know, in regards to your next home, ... Is it important that you make an informed, intelligent decision? So you're kind of calling them out a little bit on their process if you are getting pushback. Because again, a lot of it is any agent can find homes, right? Any buyer can find homes, but it's finding the right home that's important. And that's where sometimes it's having that NAR statistic that we went over is really important. You know, if you do get that pushback, say, hey, look, I get it, right? But what I found, you know, with the NAR home buyer, home seller survey that they did, 53% of buyers said that finding the right home was the hardest part in the process. So there's tons of search out there. There's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of ways to find homes, but it's hard to find the right home. The way I do it, I work with my buyers intentionally and proactively to have a system to help you find the right one. You know, what could it hurt to spend 30 minutes meeting with me to discuss that? you know. So it depends on, you got to give them some information and sometimes help them understand that maybe sometimes the frustration they are feeling, it's not just because they haven't found the right home, it's that they haven't found the right process, right, for finding the right home. Is it important you take a proactive approach rather than a reactive, right? Because the way, you know, and again, you can have some tool belt dialogue. You know, the way I look at it is I've got off-market properties, I've got coming soons that aren't in Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, right? I know of a lot of properties, so by going to open houses, a lot of times what's happening is buyers are only seeing what's already on the market, right? They have no clue as to what's coming on the market or where the market's going sometimes. They're reacting to the marketplace as opposed to working with me, which will give them a more of a proactive approach. Is it important you get the home you want and more importantly want the home you get? Is it important to make a logical decision rather than one based entirely on emotion? That's a tough one. I don't know if I'd say that. So then shouldn't we use a proactive approach that will guarantee these things? So again, gives you a couple little dialogues. The next one is the kryptonite dialogue, right? Because sometimes buyers will say that they're working with an agent, but they have no frigging clue what their name is, right?
Yep.
So I'm slow to ask the agent question just because I want to see if I can build rapport. If you ask too early in the in the showing of the property, sometimes people will they'll throw it out there as almost like, no, I'm just looking, right? I have an agent. You can't touch me, right? You can't talk to me. So I try to build rapport before I start getting into the agent conversation. So again, our key line to start off from the transition from the information giver to the labeled looker is, are you currently in the market for a new home? And they say yes. How are you going about finding your perfect home? We're working with an agent. So what's the process you're using? You almost use the exact same dialogue. So what is that? What is the process you're using to ensure that you're getting the home you want and more importantly want the home you get? Not sure what you mean. So did your agent invest time on the front end defining your perfect home, making sure it met your financial parameters, and discussing roles and expectations necessary for the successful working relationship? So you hear these three things over and over again in this dialogue. A lot of this comes from the buyer conversion, which we're going to do on Friday. So that's one of the big things that we uncover in our buyer conversion class. Basically, that consultation with the buyer is making sure we know what they want out of a home, right? They need to have this and they want to have this, and we rank those criteria. Second thing is the financial qualification of the buyer. And then the third thing is roles and expectations, right? Buyer has a certain role, loyalty, and to let us know of any updates, changes, things like that. And then we have a role as well, all the things we're going to do for them. So you'll hear this when you see in these dialogues those three things. There's a reason why, and it's tied to your buyer conversion. When you get into the buyer conversion, you'll dig deeply into those three categories. So the looker's going to say yes or no. I guess she did. Would you see value in being more intentional and proactive in your approach? If they say yes, did you sign anything with the agent? If they say no, you can move on. If they say yes, I'd stop at that point, right? If they've got a buyer-broker agreement, then at that point you don't want to get into torturous interference, anything like that with their buyer-broker agreement, and you got to kind of let it go. But you potentially sowed some seeds of doubt through the buyer kind of giving you information, and they may not be so sold on their agent as well. But it's not your job to break them up. It's the buyer's decision if they want to do that. So if they say no, they haven't signed anything, that's when you close for an appointment. So again, a lot of this is, what you're trying to do is letting them know that there's an approach out there that I take. The best way to kind of get down to that approach is for us to meet, right? Far too often, we try to pitch too much at an open house, right? Or when we've got these small moments, when what we really want to do is pitch just enough to close for an appointment, right? Because that's what we're ideally trying to do is close for that appointment. All right. Next page. So we even have dialogue if the buyer is not a looker, right? So are you currently in the market for a new home? They say nope. So what brings you out today? Just looking around. Have you ever thought about selling your home? Nope. Do you know anyone who'd be interested in buying or selling their home? Nope. It was a pleasure meeting you, and if I can ever be of service to you or anyone you know, please don't hesitate to call. This is a little bit about the Brian Buffini. You know, again, anyone who walks in, if you build good rapport with them, they could be someone who might refer you down the road. So don't be a jerk to them, right? Because, again, they may know people. And if you do a good job, sometimes we've had situations where people have met people at open houses and they were referred people just off that meeting. So, looker is not currently ready to buy. This is where I was kind of going with Paula. Currently in the market for a new home. No, we're just looking now. I don't think we're ready to buy, right? So when do you think you would be ready to buy? Well, I think it would probably be, 6 months from now. So what's important about waiting 6 months, right? And this is where you're listening to what they're saying and kind of regurgitating it, having them answer a little more deeper, right? You're going a little deeper on why it's important. Because sometimes it's, a job transfer. Well, we want our, our magnolia tree to bloom so it looks beautiful in the photos, If that's the only reason why they're waiting, maybe you probably need to close for an appointment. So, would you mind if I stayed in touch with you through the mail as well as phone? Call now and then. That way, when you're ready to buy, we can virtually ensure you of finding a home that meets your specific needs. That'd be fine. Super, what's your mailing address, right? Getting their information. And then what they do is give them the home criteria sheet to take with them. I'll show you what that is. All right. And then there's follow-up dialogue. So after the open house is done, you guys follow up with people, right? So hi, this is Joe Buffington, RE/MAX Realty Center. Did I catch you at a good time? First, let me say I enjoyed meeting with you at the open house. Did you have any further questions about the home? Did you see any other homes over the weekend that you would like to know more about? And did you have an opportunity to complete the criteria sheet? Did it help? So that's if you wind up giving them a criteria sheet, and I'll show you that. As I recall, you said you were about such and such months away from buying. Is that still accurate? Right, you're trying to use some information you remember from that conversation. So once you've established that time frame, so how would you like to proceed from here? I mean, I don't want to bug you, but I don't want you to feel like I'm neglecting you either. So how should I follow up with you from this point forward? This is if you've got that situation where they're 6 months out. If your time frame changes, please call me because I really want to help you find the right home. All right. Open house tools. So they've got a sample open house registration in here. A couple things in here. I always want to find out how they got to my home, so make sure you always include source. And then on page 21, this is your open house follow-up. So once you have a client who you need to follow up with, this is a way to document it. Some people use 3-ring binders, or sometimes they'll use 12 folders, put them in that month folder. That month they go through that folder to follow up. Page 22, this is your note cards, information you can write in the note cards. It's pretty simple dialogue in there. 23, this is, and again, in the buyer conversion, this is what we go over to help buyers figure out what the perfect home is. And again, this is made for a Texas marketplace, so there's certain things in here you're going to want to modify for Maryland. So what they do is they put an N next to certain items for a need, right? Must have. W for things that they want, and then U for things that are undesirable. So this is a way to help them kind of go through a process and figure out what they're looking for in a home, what criteria, and to give you something to go back to So if you're going through the home search and buyer is giving you, you know, you've been sending them product, they wind up giving you something that is totally out of the realm, it allows you to go back and say, hey, look, remember we filled this out a month ago? This home doesn't fit that criteria. Do you want us to change our criteria sheet? So it kind of gets back to opening a dialogue for a conversation about what product they're looking for. Because sometimes what happens is buyers change their minds. They, you know, and again, if you haven't documented where you started or what their original mind was, then you really don't have anything to kind of hammer it off of and have a discussion with them as why is it important now that we're changing locations, or why are you giving up the garage? This is not a garage unit. You said you had to have a garage originally. Because that might open up, well, we just realized that, well, you know, we just bought mom just gave us a Suburban, it'll never fit in the garage, so we're giving up the garage idea anyways. Okay, well, now I can open up the criteria to non-garage. So this is a great sheet, and you can also give this is one that you can give to buyers almost as kind of like a, you know, to get them going on how you work proactively. This is one of the 3 key factors that we're going to work on in our buyer conversion, is knowing what they're looking for. And that's it. So questions about open houses, things you guys like about them, things you guys are doing, things in this class that you think you can incorporate? Is it Monday? Is that it? Anyone do an open house over the weekend?
No, my client
Okay.
didn't want us to.
Yeah.
There was over 300 open houses in Cameron County
On Sunday?
on Sunday, 309 or something.
Yeah.
People were doing them, and
Yeah.
there's signs up, and it's beautiful, you
Yep.
know. Why not? I did one like last year, and I had great success. I did one on Father's Day too.
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't, you know, I feel that Memorial Day is worse than Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you found that out? I have one. I was a
Is there-
killer. Yeah, we had nobody. So,
Yeah.
although I was not one of them, but we had offered. So,
Yeah.
I think this is
I'm doing an
always-
open this weekend, so this is good. On that Redfin deal I've been trying to get.
Yep.
We finally have listing agreement signed, she's coming over.
Oh, awesome.
So I'm gonna do this on Sunday, and she's wants to be aggressive. So this was a good, you know, refresher to move through.
Yeah.
So
Where's your listing?
it's in Columbia, off of the Blue Dart Place.
Great. And you got Redfin out of there?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Good for you.
So
Love that.
Very cool.
excited. But hopefully it'll, you know, be quick. She's just tough on the price right now. We'll see.
Yeah. And again, a lot of times, you know, price ranges are really, you know, again, when it comes to these open houses, there's certain price ranges in certain locations that are going to have awesome success.
Right.
You know.
I just think will be a good traffic one. So.
Yep. Yeah. And again, use Facebook, and also I know you guys have done some ads, because you can do the ones that you target your sphere of influence, and then you can do ones that kind of target the marketplace around. Or in theory, you can think about who's going to be the move up buyer for this property and target market them.
Yeah. Yeah. We've been doing the targeted ads, and one of them was really good. The other one, the Vista Ridge one, was kind of off, just because the price point's a little higher. So.
Yep. Yeah. And you'll see, like, so sometimes like East County, Burtonsville, Spencerville, sometimes they're quiet on open houses. Higher price ranges can be a little difficult, but it just depends on what's around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is, I like the criteria sheet, something to give them. That's nice.
Yep. Cool. Anything else? Well, do an open this weekend. I think it's going to be a great weekend for doing opens, because then we have Memorial Day the following weekend, so I think this is a great opportunity to get one in.
Yeah.
And especially there weren't probably as many on Mother's Day. There's not going to be as many on Memorial Day, so now's a good time to do it. Cool.
Good stuff.
Awesome.